Spiritual growth is a lifelong process of acquiring more knowledge of God, acting and becoming more like Him, and conforming to His will and purpose. It is a lifelong process. That phrase there is chosen carefully. Lifelong process. That means to say that you do not stop growing. You cannot come to a point and say, "Okay, I have finished growing." Not in this kingdom. We keep growing until we are translated. So it is a lifelong process. So even those are fathers in the faith who have grown and attained certain heights spiritually, I tell them still grow, because the goal is to be conformed to the image of Christ. And until we have attained that, we cannot say we have finished growing. So he said, spiritual growth is defined as a lifelong process of acquiring more knowledge of God. You get it now? You get to know more of God, more of your Father. That is it. When a child is born into a family, I guess that baby, the best that baby can do is to distinguish between his father and maybe other people. But as this child begins to grow, he cannot tell the name of his father. Beyond calling him Papa or Dada, he cannot call him. He may not even know his name. He may not even know his surname. He may not even know his state of origin. He may not begin to even know the likes and dislikes of his father. That means that child is growing. So the same thing with you as a believer. That when you are born into the kingdom, you are born into the faith, into the fold. Now you grow. You acquire more knowledge of God, your Father, and then you become more like Him. You now begin to act even like Him. You now begin to resemble Him. The child begins to resemble the Father, maybe walk like the Father, and then conform to what? To His will and purpose. Spiritual growth begins at the new birth. This must always be emphasized. You know, somebody said you can never feed a lizard to become an alligator. No. It doesn't work. It is not possible. No matter what you give to the lizard, they cannot become an alligator, because what? It's a species. There's a difference despite between these species, between these reptiles. The same way, someone who is not born, or who has not been born again, who has not been born of the Spirit, who has not been born into the fold, into the kingdom, cannot talk of spiritual growth. In fact, a dead thing cannot grow. Ephesians chapter 2 talks about, it said, "Ye who were one time dead in trespasses." You were dead in trespasses. So that man, that woman, that boy, that girl who is still dead in trespasses has nothing to do about with spiritual growth. Until now, until you are quickened, he said, "And you hath he quickened." You hath he made alive. So until you are quickened, until you are made alive, only living things can grow. So that's why we say spiritual growth begins at the new birth and continues till the believer is translated. Spiritual growth is the mark of life. It is not automatic. As such, the degrees of believers' spiritual growth vary. That is quite clear. That is why you can see a particular believer growing rapidly, growing progressively, and see the other one having stunted growth. It is not automatic. Yes, the resources are readily available, but it is now dependent on the believer. So that's why we see variations in spiritual maturity in the body of Christ. Some are growing very well, some are growing healthily, while some are having stunted growth. It is definitely the will and desire of God for all His children to have a rapid and progressive spiritual growth.